Good evening, everybody. My name is Mike Jennings. I have the singular honour of being the chair of TASC, who, as you know, is one of the component parts of this wonderful project of which we're so proud to be working with our partners. I was told to restrict my time to 2 minutes, and those who know Mike Jennings must have said, oh my God, that's some task, all right, for me to be so brief. Uachtar Nahéireann will be formally welcomed by my colleague and friend Anya, but it would be remiss of me to say that I've known Michael D and Sabina for almost 50 years now. And just to say, this is the first time, Michal, that I have had the pleasure and the honour of actually welcoming you to an event. The fact that you and Sabina have graced us with your presence is just hugely appreciated. I really want to thank David and Jennifer, David Fitzpatrick and Jennifer Boyer from TU Dublin for giving us the use of this fantastic facility and for the support they give us. It reminds me of the time when the Dannon played their first concert in the National Concert Hall, and I think it was Mickey Finn stood up to say, I want to thank the nuns for the use of the hall. It will be a great honour, and we've got a lot of material to get through. So I will ask Anya Murray to formally introduce the President and to introduce the programme for this evening. Anya, as some of you I'm sure already know, is an environmental policy analyst and ecologist, and she has been long involved as an environmental advocate and has been active in highlighting the importance of protecting our natural environment and wildlife and ecosystems. She's worked with Antashka as a Natural Environment Officer on European and Irish environmental policy, and as Land Use and Habitats Policy Officer at Birdwatch Ireland. She is a member of the Irish Environmental Network and the Irish Wildlife Trust. She is also a regular presenter on Lyrics FM, which I've heard and really admire, and their programme Eco-Eye, and again on RTE's Nature File. So I'm happy to hand over, and I hope you all have a very, very pleasant evening. And thank you very much for coming, and thank you for tolerating all the protocols we've had to place in place because of the unmentionable C word. It's really appreciated. Go to meet him, Agav.
Thank you very much, Mike, for that introduction. I'm absolutely delighted and honoured to be here today, to be emceeing for the day. These are very interesting times with COP26 ongoing. We're hearing daily reports of how it's code red for humanity, the deep changes that we need to make on every level of society. And I always find that the best way to deal with this sometimes overwhelming onslaught of what we have to do is to be in places like this with like-minded people. This event is all about environmental groups, community activists, people coming together to share their stories of what they have done to inspire each other. And on that note, with no further ado, I would like to invite the President, Michael D. Higgins, up, who is going to inspire us at the outset of this gathering.
Cohélik ar a mí mágad a Satan Correlóher sin agus Tigim Gmagul Diniore Iana Specials and Sha Aksak Cohoher Heta Hula Bigrau and a Choctadola Hetoi Loher agus Gmala Shin Ir Uchtron Uchtron Fuiloher Francestras a bit Fisher and List of Vimeo. I just say, first of all, what a great pleasure it is to be here. I always find that one is a bit strong, that light there, but as long as I'm not blinded, I'm fine. I remember most of what I want to say anyway. But the point about it is that it's a great pleasure to be here in Ulscoil Technoleach de Ballia Clia, agus Gwimcock Raw, agus Banach, ní bhain an ótar an heol an seola dom tíocht an seo agus gona fuirin ar fad agus gachtain a mega gobrin seo. I so wish this new space every success into the future, everybody who teaches here and everybody who will everybody who will work and do research and become qualified in different ways. And also, for another day, as I will say, claim back the true meaning of technology, of technos, and place it at where it should be, in many cases, as at the highest level of aspiration in every sense. So, out from the shadow of every other forms of third level hegemony, I'm sure you're going to do very, very well, very, very, very well. I was delighted as well that to have this opportunity of coming here to the new, this new campus. I'm, of course, as you've just heard, very conscious that COP26 is taking place in Glasgow. And reading the accounts of COP26 myself, I think it's very important that there be no false generational divide be placed in responding to the challenges of, let us say, placing a form of social economy within a sustainable ecological space. It is something that people of all ages, people yet to be born, will benefit from. I think as well, the word community. Many years ago, when I was starting out teaching sociology, I had a very, very good debate with the late and distinguished sociologist, Professor Damien Hennon, about the meaning of this word community. I had a rather controversial view. And I won't elaborate it now, but I will say what it was, basically, in summary, was that at a certain stage what was described as community in rural Ireland was an elaborate sense of reciprocity. In other words, this that the time that the widow wasn't able to send the remains of a pig to her neighbours, there was nothing coming back from the neighbours, either that it was a complicated form of exchange. But my main reason was to draw attention to something that was being neglected, I thought, and that is that the strongest, most intense forms of community have been in cities. But there was a certain amount of assumption that community was something from the past and was rural. But in fact, actually, when you look at the accounts of the people in the tenements, when you look at Sean O'Casey's Dublin, when you look at all the people, for example, who were relocated from the edges of the city, and so when you look at responses to flooding, look at responses to COVID and to whatever, and you see that community is not confined either in time or in this particular spatial setting. And it is incredibly important, I think, in relation to one of the reasons it's no difficulty to me to be here, because I think it is so important. Because if we need to make the change in relation to redefining economics in a way that it can live sustainably within a responsible ecological frame, and also because this is why I'm a supporter of task so strongly. We really need, in fact, to say that no more than people like, those who are writing now in this area, issues of justice, issues of economic transformation sit so well with the campaigns in relation to responding to climate change. It all has to happen together. And in our way, one of the biggest I'm writing at the moment my piece from Auckland 4, and one of the most astonishing, striking things about Irish scholarship is the reluctance to deal with class. It's missing in the history, it's missing in radical sociology, it's of course entirely not regarded, it's not de rigueur to speak about class in relation to what's left of neoclassical economics. So we have to do it all together. And in doing it all together, then you come back to the place, in fact, where you come back to the importance of community. There is nothing more radical than people understanding and taking initiatives and being in control of them themselves. There's a huge difference, for example, being called to hear what has been decided for you, or being called to hear what would be a very good idea if you would do it, and actually arriving at the opinion that this is something that's going to make us all better because we have done it together, because we own it. And that's why it's so important that we'll be able to see a screening of We the Power documentary, which showed the benefits of community-owned renewable energy projects. I think what's this evening, I very much so wish Sean McCabe of Task and the Climate Justice Centre. I not just thank them for the invitation. I'm an admirer and a supporter of their work. I think as well is that we're here to hear the findings of the People's Transition Project. That is so important. Think of if this exemplar was followed, what a great difference. And as I've said, it would make, and then we will look at We the Power. When you look, for example, at one of the things that hasn't been used in relation to Irish planning, and for noble reasons really, and that is the cooperative movement. The cooperative movement comes out at a certain period in Irish history, and what happens is, as in fact, family and personal possession of land, and as in fact agriculture becomes less about self-sustaining agriculture, becomes more about saleable product internationally and so forth. So you have a kind of an ethos of commercialisation that allows, if you like, the cooperative values to wither. And this is always a struggle. It's a debate I have been part of myself over the years in relation to the credit union movement, of which I was a very early member. But it's very, very interesting. The notion about it is that you must get at the greed of the thing yourself. Or as Liam O'Flaherty is a short story where the mother says to the son, before he puts the second calf on the cow, and he said, a man must have a great greed for the world in him. And it's that, in a way, you think about that. So in its time, the cooperative movement was condemned as a form of creeping socialism. The credit union movement, in my time, when I came to Galway at 19 years of age, we couldn't get the notices for the new meetings of the credit union in different places, like to be read out at Mass and so forth. Again, and this, in a way, means that community is you're winning something new. If you say your community, in many cases about it all, you must realise is that you're doing something that contradicts the individualist ethos, if you like, of everything that surrounds it. But I pay tribute to you. I think as well that when we look at We in the Poor, which I know this work, you will see examples of what people are doing. People are doing co-ops in the Black Forest, what they're doing in the urban rooftops of London, England, as people pave the way for a renewable energy transformation. And it's so important that we get this good news, because the next phase of the negatives is to say what it's going to cost, and you keep adding noughts to it, so that people almost in the end will get so depressed to say, God, we're gone anyway, we'll all be ruined. We are ruined already. Nonsense. The main point about it is all the pieces that come together become the composition of what is new. I think that it's very good. It's very good for me to get out of the institutional setting where I'm living at the moment. And to be in a community myself, actually meeting people and being able to take my mask off for a short while is very encouraging. But I think as well, what's going on in Phibsboro, like the Climate Club, the Sustainable Energy Community, and I must say about it all, giving us an example to all of us who are interested, Bohemians Climate Justice Initiative, a fine club, and there they are, they're red and black, actually. Yeah. But I can tell you about it all. Those of us who are involved in other alliances shortly to be doing an awful lot better, such as Go United. But Bohemians is admired, and rightly so. It is, as I go into it, it is a community club. And to see the people walking to the game and the people enjoying the soccer, but also sweat. I know what they're doing not only in relation to this issue, but also what they're doing in relation to their prisons initiative and all of the other initiatives. And Chris Liam Love, which I congratulate them on that. I think in relation to climate change, many of the people here, one is talking to the converted, but one of the things that I mentioned, I'm writing a mock speech at the moment for mock number 4, but it's very difficult to get people to face, if they like, first of all, there isn't any judgmentalism in it. It's only recognising how we came to be where we are. But in the case of climate about came to be where we are, none of this happened by accident. It is really a socio-Anthropocene. The Industrial Revolution between 1760 and 1830 released a whole series of new capacities that is responsible for the destruction that is now imminent. And I think it's very important to realise as well that in reworking that is that the models, if you like, that sustained that, the model of colonisation, the idea of trade dominance, endless expansion, the concept of economic growth. Before the concept of economic growth, you had the concept of modernisation, that everyone was kind of turning into the same kind of consuming person, and so forth, and would eventually. It's a big thing to say, and that's what's meant, is that the paradigm shift we're speaking about must be able to realise we are responsible, and there's no we in it. It's some of the poorest people are people who pay the highest price, but those drivers, as it were, of endless expansion and so forth, it has to be called out. So therefore, in many ways, while there were people, I was at the climate conference, a conference in 1992 in Rio on economics and development, and I saw that the Business Council for Sustainable Development had taken the word sustainable, because they said this word is going to catch on, and if capitalism is to save itself, we'll better put sustainable in. The chairman of it was the head of Nescafe, the vice chairman was Mr. Agnelli, brilliant man. I interviewed him and so forth, and he said this is what it's about. And it's the exact same way, is that we have to be able to go to the core of the assumptions that in fact produce the situation to which so many people are now responding. And I think as well, the other thing about it is that there will be a kind of conservative tendency to say about it, but if we're to do it all, and won't we be worn out and all of a sudden, we have no choice. And that has to be explained again and again. And the other side about it is that it is all possible. It is possible to have energy efficient buildings rather than energy efficient ones, to have different ways of, in fact, reducing what the costs of our existing forms of transport. You know all that as good as me, better. I think as well as that, which is very, very good, because I am in a third level institution, people have been teaching economics now in universities. Some of them have been very brave and very good, and they've been exceptions. I think then from what's in the literature, be it Pater Kirby here in Ireland, but with people like Ian Goff, Heat, Greed and Human Need, and the others. But then across in the North American continent, where I've seen it surveyed, Economics 101 is an old, tired, dangerous game being trotted out as an introduction to economics. So everything changes, and everything will be changed. And there's a great joy in that. In a way, it's about achieving the result of experiencing the result of the thing yourself. I mentioned in the old days when we were going to marches and against apartheid or whatever we were doing, all the rest of it, the sheer energy from going to the thing and then hearing the speeches and coming home again. And it has to be like that as you combine the consciousnesses in relation to social justice, in relation to ecological responsibility, and entirely new forms of economics. I think in relation to the community's role, as well as I've said about it all, there is a warmth in community in urban areas in many cases. I have written about that elsewhere, and I could get caught onto that number. I only want to say about it, there is something wonderful. And that's the idea, is that the city that you live in and the places and the communities that you live in and the events that are organised have to be felt by the people themselves. They're not prescription, won't work, nor will proscription. I believe that we should as well use this entire experience to do huge institutional change. I think all of the local authorities have an opportunity to reinvent themselves. they'll find that there's a lost energy that was seeped out of the local authority system, can come back into it by having this new dialogue with the communities. And it won't be about shifting the decisions around through different ranks. It'll be about getting a buzz out of something that's working and doing so that even future generations will benefit. I think as well that in relation to all of this, it isn't a case of people saying you must do something. It's much better said is that you don't miss the feel of what the great transition is about. The people's transition. Inclusive it is, in a sense of gender inclusive for people of all ages, of all people of all kinds of orientation and wherever people came from. The whole idea about it is that all of us together, each one of us as citizens, I'm running a small campaign. I'd much better if people would have the courage to use the word citizen again. It's so much more attractive to the likes of people like me at my age than the notion of stakeholder. I don't want to have a stake in anything. I just want good company about people who actually feel about it. So all of this, that's the speech I've actually given now, and I'm a lot happier with it. But it is, may I say, have a great evening, Barbana. Gonna meet him again.